Mr. Chukwu, I can see you over there in Lagos. Hello and welcome to the show. Let's get straight to the point. 43 nominees, 43 people have been announced as ministers, or yes, nominees. Tell me what the market is feeling. When I mean market, I'm talking about Broad Street as well as Custom Street. What you and your colleagues, when the names came out yesterday, is there some kind of feel-good, do you have a feel-good feeling about the 43 names on the list?
Well, there are different perspectives to it. In the first place, people feel a sense of relief that eventually you have ministers, so that the governance activity is not going to slow down to a halt. You have also heard the National Assembly announce, the Senate announced they're going to extend their session. They will defer their holidays to make sure they approve the Ministerial List. But that's the first thing. The first thing is that it's a relief the name has come out, and then we can no longer have, we no longer need to speculate on who will be minister. We now have the list of ministers. The other aspect is that there are some names that people expected to be in the ministerial list who they didn't find. So there are some sense of disappointment that we do not have so much of professionals in the list. The president was true to his statement that he was going to appoint people that he was familiar with, that he knew. And if you look at that list of 43 names, they are clearly people that the president is very familiar with. People who have had long-term relationship with the president. So he actually, what he called, erred on the side of caution, or stayed true to what he stated, that he was not going to bring in people that were strangers to him. Another thing is that the list is largely dominated by politicians. But that does not take away the fact that politicians can also be very competent. Some of the people who are politicians today had earlier other professions before they went into politics. So it wouldn't be good to ban everybody who is a politician as incompetent or without some professional competence. There are some of them who have had strong private sector professional experience before they went into politics. So the key thing that we need to look at the list and then separate the, I wouldn't say that use the word separate the chaff from the game, but I would say that we should not brand anybody who is into politics as incompetent. Though as investors and market players, we were expecting certain unique competencies that are well established, particularly in the area of finance or economic management, that one would say, apart from one or two names that you could say, have some reasonable level of experience in those sectors, you might find it difficult to say you have an expert in economic management in the list. Now,
you know, I'm trying to separate what you're saying in terms of you shouldn't categorize every politician as being incompetent. At least most politicians, or some politicians, were doing something before they moved into politics. But from the list that we've seen so far, just like you said, that you're not seeing some kind of competencies around finance and economic front, especially now that Nigeria is in dire need of resuscitating its economy, because the economy is not doing well at all. Even at a 2% growth, it's not doing well. We should be growing double digits. If double digits is not far-fetched now, we should be growing at over like 6, 7, 8% to make a little bit of impact. Though that you said that we shouldn't just take away this politics thing, but we'll still come back to it a bit, because in that list, are you seeing more of policy than politics?
What I would say that there's a lot of political dominance in the list. If you look at that list of the 43 names, they are well-known and established political figures. Most of them are well-known political figures, apart from a few that some people may not be familiar with. Again, there are people who have been active in politics for the last 10 to 20 years. Like I said, but that does not take away the fact that some of them have also had very good private sector experience. What one would say, like I mentioned earlier, the president remained true to his statement that he was going to take only people that he knew. The list, I've looked at the profile of many of them. Some of them are his friends or partners in CPC and then ANPP. So you have, and then a few of them that have recently joined from PDP to APC maybe about 4 years ago. But you would, if you have to really summarize it, say that there is dominance of politics over technical or technocratic competencies.
Okay, I'll still extra in the list, even though they are dominated by politicians, so to speak. You see, what kind of mojo, what kind of momentum are we going to be seeing this second term with this list, even though they are filled with politicians? Are we going to be seeing skills? Are we going to be seeing experience? Are we going to also be seeing representativity? Are we going to be seeing commitment towards public good? Since this is a second missionary journey of the president.
Well, Nancy, it might be difficult for someone to run out of the handle to begin to speculate on what one would expect. If you are to look at the personalities in that list, those are the kind of assemblage that you normally have just before an election. Because what you saw in that list is that in every state of the federation, a strong political figure was selected or nominated as a ministerial candidate. If you cast your mind back to Obasanjo's era, what Obasanjo used to do was take in some technocrats at the beginning of his tenure, and then towards the end of tenure, rejig his cabinet and bring in politicians and win the election. What I would say is that that list actually positions the ruling party to contest the 2023 election, because these are very strong political figures that were selected. If they will be able to drive economic development, that's still in the realm of speculation, depending on their individual and collective motive. It is in their united self-interest to drive for economic progress, because that's what they would now have to present to the country in 2023 as their tombstone to speak, because many of the people and the figures I saw, there are people who will be seeking for election in 2023 at one level or the other. It will be difficult for anybody to say you are going to see accelerated economic development. But I had mentioned earlier that in terms of people with macroeconomic experience, economic management experience, there are not too many in that list. There are some of them that have good private sector experience, but at the level of national economic management, I wouldn't say I saw too many names there. There is the former Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed. Obviously, she may be coming back into that portfolio as the Minister of Finance. There's also Uche Oga, Dr. Samson Uche Oga, who was the former banker and gubernatorial candidate of APC in Abia State. He had some strong banking experience. Maybe he'll be coming also in any of the economic portfolio. Aside from those two, I'm finding it difficult to see those who have either finance background or finance experience in that list.
Okay, if we take a look now at the average age of the ministers that the president has put together, I can see a little smile on your face. I don't know if you know where I'm going to. The average age as constituted is about 60 years old. So you're seeing a careful balancing between the old and the new. What does this portend actually for the country, especially a country that has a vibrant, youthful population? I'm struggling to see perhaps those that would also be manning the sports ministry, youth development and all of that. You know, you understand what I mean. How did you take a look at that?
Well, in terms of age distribution of the list, I would say it was short on the younger generation. I didn't see anybody that is less than 45 years in that list. I think the youngest may actually be Uche, who is about 49. He will be 50 in December this year. So you will actually say that the average age is in the 50s. I'm not sure the average age is in the 50s or 60s. The president obviously did not adhere to the expected balance when it comes to bringing in a lot of young people into governance at the national level. The president has never pretended about issues like that. In the first place, if the president says, I'm going to defer, I'm going to pick people that I'm familiar with, that are my friends, that I've known, and the president is in his 70s, then you should also expect that his friends are not going to be 30s. So I'm not surprised at that. I hope there will be opportunities that will be given to youth in other areas of governance so that they can also. We need to groom people who are young to take over. I mean, if you look at globally, you see countries like France, even the new British Prime Minister is 50. I think about 54. So you realize that this is the age where the young and very young are in leadership positions. So we shouldn't paper over that, because you can't be continuing to say the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. They only lead when they become too old. The benefits of energy is what you get from having the youth with you. But the other opportunities, the president will appoint special advisors and a retinue of advisors that he could actually bring young people. But in that list, I would say it was dominated by people who are in their middle to late life.
And of course, the representation of women, I think 7, and we have 36 men. But I want you to address that with this other question I'm about to ask, which is, you know, what responsibility should the National Assembly be having right now? Because even before this list came out, when I think about the president's delay in bringing out the list, and what comes to my mind is that he did it in his first term. It took him a whole 6 months to appoint ministers. And if we had like a vibrant and responsible National Assembly at that time, I'm not saying they were not responsible, but they saw that, that there was a lacuna in the law. Perhaps there's no timeline for the president to bring the minister. So it can take the president a whole 2 years. In fact, some states went on without commissioners for a very long time. One of those is also on the ministerial list now, that did not have commissioners for a long time and was like an emperor in his state. What responsibility should it be right now for the National Assembly, away from screening these ministers and saying there is a lacuna in the law, let's fill that lacuna so that whenever any president is elected, there is a timeline at which you bring out ministers. If you take a look at South Africa, I think it took Ramaphosa about 1 week to constitute his whole cabinet. It took him some 2 hours to bring in the key ministers, Tito Mboweni, Pravin Gordhan, and all of that. And even South Africans were shouting. He did something very extraordinary. He brought someone from the opposition party into his ministerial list. So what I'm trying to ask right now is that it behoves on the National Assembly, beyond the screening, to say this has happened during the first term of President Buhari. It has happened again. Can we actually mitigate it so another president doesn't do that? You understand what I mean?
Well, yes, I do. Let's start from the first part of your question, which is the representation of women. We only have 7 women in a list of the 3 ministerial candidates. Clearly, there is underrepresentation of women in that list, particularly for a party that said in their policy document that they will have a representation of about 30% for women, something like 30% or 50% for women. So clearly, that list fell short of the policy of the ruling political party. I wouldn't know to what extent the party hierarchy, the party apparatus was involved in compiling that list. Or if they were, they should have made efforts to correct that imbalance. There are several benefits that having women as ministers would bring to the country. One, it actually helps to motivate, particularly those segments of the section of the country where women are not being given equal opportunities, to see the benefits of having women given educational opportunities to also achieve as much as the men do. I wouldn't know how the president would correct that, but clearly there was an imbalance between in the list in favor of the male folk. Then the second aspect of your question, Nancy, I would think it would be difficult for me as a person to imagine that the current National Assembly will amend the law to put some stringent conditions on the timeline for nomination of ministers or sending the ministerial list to the National Assembly. If the money has to be a predictor of the day, how the day will be, you can see the current National Assembly struggling to maintain cordial relations with the presidency. I mean, sometimes actually acting as the advocate of the executive arm of government. So in situations like that, I do not imagine that they want to do anything that would not, in their own imagination, that will displease the president. Unless the president gives them that directive, I don't see, maybe, politics, you cannot really say what the day would be. But if what we've seen so far of the National Assembly is anything to go by, I think the National Assembly is trying to be as malleable as they can to meet up with the expectations or the wishes of the president. So if it's not a wish of the president to have a timeline imposed on him for nomination of ministers, I don't see the National Assembly doing that. Interestingly, it's not even the current president may not have any opportunity of nominating ministers. So should anybody think of that, they should recognize that it's in the longer interest of the country, and it is not against the current head of government or head of state. It's actually to ensure that there's some level of continuity in governance. Situation where people are elected to office. It's not that the president has not just delayed in the appointment of ministers. Several states of the federation are not nominated.
They don't have commissioners.
Yeah. Yes, and it's something that should be, because of course those governors have become absolute rulers in their states if they don't have commissioners. And the constitution makes provision for the commissioners and the federal ministers. It's just that it did not specify what timeline they have. But clearly, if you have a mission-critical leader at a state or any level of governance, that mission-critical leader will want to select his team urgently or timeously to ensure that he hits the ground running. If you're elected a minister, a president or governor in March, if I am to be in that position, Nancy, I can assure you within 2 weeks I will have my list. Because along the line, while it's interacting with people, I would have picked my list.
Yes. You would have known those you want to work with.
Yes, and before we even resume governance, we would have gone on our retreat, assigned portfolios, and wait for the inauguration of the assembly to submit a list. But that is me, and
you're talking like a private person. You are a private person. You know, for those of us in the private sector, it's like you are result-oriented, but those in the public sector, they will get results, just small, just a few of them, you know. But, Mr. Chukwu, I want to say many thanks for joining me today on the show. Let's continue to watch and see how the screening will go. Many thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure.
All right, let's